And joining us now for more on this is Dr. Ronen Zaidel, Iraq analyst at the Moshe Dayan Center of Tel Aviv University, and he speaks to us this evening from Haifa. Dr. Zaidel, thanks for joining us. Let me phrase it this way. Is there any reason to suspect anyone else but those Iran-linked militia groups were behind this attack? And if it was, what does it tell us that they would escalate the situation in this manner?
Sorry, I'm talking from on. No reason to suspect anybody else. The suspects are there. They deny responsibility. They don't take responsibility. But there's only one factor in Iraq which can use drones, and these are the militias. Drones were used. The militias are involved in that, and of course they don't want to take responsibility because they fear the consequences.
All right. So, well, let's talk about what are the consequences. I mean, what are the potential implications that this attack was carried out, even though unsuccessfully?
Well, they crossed the red line, an obvious red line, because there's been no assassination attempt against any Iraqi prime minister or dignitary since 2003, and that's the first time it happens. I'm not really sure whether they wanted to kill him or just to intimidate him. He's not intimidated. He's not easily intimidated. And I'm not so sure what was the purpose behind that. Of course, they hate him guts. And of course, they hold him responsible for the death of their demonstrators days ago. And yesterday, they marched on posters with his picture saying, wanted, Academy wanted. So in Israel, we know that the writing was on the wall, but everybody was surprised that it ended up this way. I guess that somebody was trying to intimidate Prime Minister Kadami. The fear is that the Iraqi state might retaliate, and the Iraqi state is still much stronger than the militias, given the fact that Iran is not 100% behind them. Iran condemned the assassination attempt. It's trying to distance itself from the perpetrators of this. And the militias are not prepared to fight the Iraqi army and security forces if that happens. Something else that might happen, which might affect them, is that they will be branded by the Iraqi state as terror organizations. And then the Iraqi state would also fight them, and they would find themselves in the defense, defending themselves against the Iraqi security forces and the Iraqi army. Right. They don't want that to happen.
Dr. Zaidel, maybe clarify us the relationship between Iran and these militias, which you say in this case it could be that the Iranians didn't sign off on this particular act. I mean, we've seen similar Hezbollah in Lebanon. We know that Iran is behind Hezbollah, but we know that Iran sometimes acts independently. What is the relationship between the militias in Iraq and the Iranian regime?
Historically, the relations were very strong. Iran was training, financing, supporting the militias. But a couple of weeks ago, we had elections in Iraq and the militias lost. They were actually defeated. And this is what they find very hard to accept. They want a recount of the votes, but apparently they are not going to get it, and they do not accept the defeat. And this is why they are on the entrance to the green zone protesting and demonstrating. Iran is very wary about that. Iran wants a stable Iraq in which its achievements will be preserved. I'm not an Iran expert, so I don't really know if everybody in Iran is of the same line, and I cannot actually tell you whether somebody in Iran was directing this operation yesterday. I don't really know that. You have to ask Iranian experts on that. But the militias are kind of disappointed from the Iranian lack of support for their cause right now, because the Iranians are not supporting the cause of the protesters. The Iranians are not condemning the winners of the elections or condemning the Iraqi government. And the Iranians do not claim that there was fraud in the Iraqi elections. They actually would rather sit down and negotiate with the new government in order to preserve their achievements and not harm them.
Right. Just briefly, do you believe we're going to see an uptick in violence coming as a reaction to this incident, coming from either side or other sides of this situation in Iraq?
We have to wait and see. It depends on Prime Minister Kadhimi and Muqtada Sadr, his partner right now, who won the elections. And B, we are seeing violence from the militias. There was a launch of missiles on a Turkish military base in the northern part of Iraq, and the militias are also suspect for that. So we do see more violence now within the framework of what we used to see, except for the assassination attempt, obviously. It's pretty much up to Kadhimi and Sadr. And if I read Kadhimi's recent announcement, I think that Kadhimi is calling for pacification.
All right, well, we'll have to leave it at that. Dr. Ronen Zaidel, thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
Thank you for inviting me.